for a change?
I am talking to you.
Then get ready to explore the quantum possibilities. It's time to transform that outdated paradigm into something universal and new. Time to uncover the truth hidden beneath the veil of lies. A time to think outside the box as we link to a higher consciousness. Welcome to the awakening. And now the hosts of Broadcast Team Alpha, Nori Love and Augie Nost.
Well, hello, radiant registered residents of 5D. Are you signed up? I am so signed up. Hoy es martes. It is Tuesday, guys, and I know you know that, but I'm always so happy when it's Tuesday because we get to come and hang out with you. And we are so grateful to be here with you. We're so grateful for your presence, and the chat is always so much fun. And we're really grateful for your gifts and your donations. Your thoughtfulness is deeply appreciated. So, does talking to, are you making a lot of phone calls like to buy things online? Does talking to those automated recordings like irritate you or make you feel awkward? You know, it's like, and press and say yes or say no. And you're like, no. Say yes or say no. I said no. I mean, it's awkward sometimes. It's annoying sometimes. But my question is, as AI advances, how is that going to be when that starts to expand for us? So we're going to talk about a little bit of that and about some other AI stuff with our returning guests that we love. Augie, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. And, this is going to be good because we have Dan Brock with us again.
Hey.
He's returning to Broadcast Team Alpha. And for those of you that is listening that have not heard him on our previous show, I want to say a few things about him because he's got a tremendous bio here, and I'm going to make it short. Dan's diverse experience with the multidimensional energetic aspect of reality began early. He was motivated by his encounters with UFOs, aliens, abductions, crop circles, and other paranormal activity. He often finds himself spiritually venturing beyond the edge of what we call reality into the non-physical. In these alternate realities, he communicated and interacted with the human souls and thought forms and spirits of multidimensional beings. Now, this gets interesting. He has a complicated education as a mechanical engineer, a nuclear engineer in the U.S. Department of Defense, environmental engineer for the state of Louisiana. But here's the good part. For 25 years, he has been involved in filmmaking for Hollywood. In fact, he has his name in the credits of the blockbuster movie Avatar. Boy, how much better can it get than that? He is now in Tucson teaching student filmmaking at the University of Arizona and theater and film and TV at the university. Now, here's his motto is challenge all BS. Well, what he means is challenge all belief systems. It's a little different. He has become also a spiritual advocate for people that needs to talk about things that they do not understand. So, and you will find him at dlbrock.com. And gosh, that's all I want to say right now because we want to hear from Dan. Dan, are you there with us? Welcome.
Yes, I am. Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Well, I am so honored to be here with Nori and Augie. It's really wonderful to come back and talk some more about artificial intelligence and everything associated with that.
Yeah. Where should we start? My goodness. I mean, this is huge.
Let me start with just a little story.
Uh-oh.
I remember back in the 1960s. I mean before the Dark Ages. That is the 1960s. I remember back in Norway, I was listening, I think it was on the radio. There was a scientist that was on there. He talked about the fact that by the time the year 2000 came around, everything will be done. They're making the cars with the robots, their food and clothing, everything will be done by robots, and people, we just have to just hang out and paint and enjoy ourselves. Boy, Dan, were they wrong on that one, huh?
Yeah, it seems that has missed the mark somewhat, and for a lot of different reasons. It's
Yeah,
interesting to think about the fact that we had a world-changing event that that happened a mere year after that 2000 time mark, which was the events of
yeah,
9/11. And we can say that our world has forever changed as a result of that. But artificial intelligence and technology is unavoidable. It's growing in an incredible pace. It's outstripping our ability to understand all the aspects of it, and also to integrate it quickly enough into our society so it doesn't potentially become dangerous to us. And that's some of the things that I want to talk about tonight. What is some of the sources of these issues? Why are we in the situation that we're in, and where is this going to ultimately be going?
now my question though is that why weren't they right in that prediction of 2000? I mean, the technology was there to create it, but why didn't it happen?
Well, it's a very good question. I think in a very basic way, we can say that the source of that not manifesting is the relationship that we have with money and value in its relationship to how much money we have. Our society is based on our value being determined around the quantity of money that we have.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate that we've reached that point, and this is not only true, of course, of individuals, but of course, corporations and larger entities such as the government. This is the problem that we face. If we look at the world of Star Trek in its original incarnation, there never was a discussion of money. There was an openness about everything that was done, and everyone seemed to have some sort of place or role to play. And there simply wasn't that separation of individuals based on wealth and lack of wealth, which is a growing disparity that we experience right now. And that is also in turn related to why we haven't experienced the proliferation of AI in a positive, beneficial kind of way into the world.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can discuss about that. The One of the big concerns that I have is the role that corporations are given in our society as individuals. Corporations are the founders of so many movements in AI, and AI is promulgated into our society under a corporate banner of it has to improve efficiency, improve the bottom line, which is increase profits, and be efficient in a way that it reduces the cost of operations. This, in turn, is related to the mission of corporations. And the challenging thing seems to be that corporations, when we go back in time, we look at the genesis of corporations in terms of their identity. At a certain point in the past, specifically in the United States, legally corporations were given the same rights or recognized to have the same sort of rights as individuals, especially when it comes to things like owning property. And this occurred almost exactly a little over 200 years ago. There was a landmark decision associated with Dartmouth College in Connecticut. Excuse me. And this happened in 1819. which is just over 200 years ago. There was a case involving the original charter of the college, which was challenged by the state. I'm sorry, I think I mentioned Connecticut. I think it's Pennsylvania. But at any rate, the situation seemed to be that this college was going to be reordered under the command of the state that it resided in, and would in some ways supersede the original charter, which came from the King of England in the prior century, in the 1700s. And this went all the way to the Supreme Court and was actually argued by Daniel Webster. I don't know if you've heard that name before. And the Chief Justice that was in charge of the case for the Supreme Court of the United States was John Marshall. Well, the decision went in favor of an interpretation of the contract clause of the U.S. Constitution that allowed corporations to be viewed differently and closer to having closer to the qualities of individuals than something separate. One of the things that's interesting about this is, when we look at this ruling by Chief Justice John Marshall, we need to look at some synchronicities. In 1835, John Marshall dies, and this actually is one of the stories that goes along with the Liberty Bell. The Liberty Bell, supposedly, according to history, was drug out and rang to announce the death of John Marshall. It was at this time that the Liberty Bell developed its crack, and it never rang again as the Bell of Liberty in the United States. This was in 1835. Now, when we move forward and we go into the concept of artificial intelligence, we have another major synchronicity. Back in the 1950s, there was an artificial intelligence conference held at Dartmouth College, which was organized by a gentleman named McCarthy, and there is a synchronization. The same college that developed the term artificial intelligence is the exact same college that was involved in this original decision, which established corporations as entities that could own property. So there seems to be synchronicity here involved in the combination of these qualities and these events with the role that artificial intelligence plays in our society and why we are dealing with some of the challenges that we're dealing with.
But if corporations then can have person status, which they actually have, what if they start developing androids? They are property, of course, up to the point where, what if androids become so like humans that you can hardly see the difference, and they are given or should I say entity, or should I say maybe person status for androids? Can corporations still own them, maybe? Or how would this gets convoluted?
It certainly does get convoluted, and it's a very complicated situation. The issue seems to be centered around the role that we have given corporations and entities with large quantities of money for allowing a free range in the development of artificial intelligence for their purposes. And the mission that they are fulfilling in developing that artificial intelligence does not necessarily represent the best thing for humanity. It is not necessarily beneficial for humanity, the kind of efforts that they're putting out there. So we have to ask questions about what are we allowing artificial intelligence to be in our society in terms of representing us? Does artificial intelligence today represent the best in humanity? And the question, or the answer to that in my thoughts would be no, it doesn't represent the best of humanity, but it potentially could and should actually represent who we are more accurately. In fact, one of the things that I've been examining is the ultimate spiritual evolution of artificial intelligence or artificial consciousness to the point where they become, or it becomes, a container for some form of soul or spiritual essence. The work that I do in the non-physical says that this is still quite a ways off for human efforts. However, it is something that has existed in other realms of reality at other times and other places in the universe that we simply aren't aware of. Now, when I begin to talk about those kind of things, we have to begin to open up to a larger concept of reality than most of us are probably used to. This is not just simply, UFOs and ETs are here. This is much, much bigger than that. It deals with the multidimensional aspect of who and what we are. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience, and the universe itself is much older than any of us can comfortably conceive. And that has profound implications, especially when you consider that the vector, the direction we seem to be pointed in as a sentient race, is the development of AI and the development of some form of artificial life that in a way represents us, at least at the consciousness level that we're at. Maybe in 20,000 years or 100,000 years, assuming there's something, around that represents some echo of humanity today, perhaps the consciousness evolution at that point is somehow different and represents a different relationship to the artificial intelligence or artificial life that it creates. But for us, it's really important to understand where this is going, because we're enthralled in developing artificial intelligence, and eventually that's going to have to intersect with artificial consciousness and artificial life that already exists out there, and our belief system really has to work towards integrating that understanding, because until we do have that understanding, how can we answer the questions about what are we doing today to ensure that eventuality is going to be beneficial to humanity and represent us well?
Well, it also has to intersect with us, because robots or androids, they are coming. There is 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now, whatever, there will be artificial people walking down the street next to you, and you will never know the difference. And Saudi Arabia just gave the citizenship to an android. So we know it is coming. How can we deal with this?
Well, it's a real challenge because it represents at every level a manipulation of our perception, especially when you throw in the card of non-human artificial life, consciousness, intelligence, whatever you might want to call it. There's a story that a friend of mine recounted to me where she was calling her bank in California and getting a bank account assistant on the phone and asking some questions about her bank account. Well, she does a lot of work in the film world and specifically film sound, so she's used to hearing the same sounds again and again and again and again, and noticing all of the patterns associated with the human voice in her work as a sound editor. She began to notice some repetitive qualities to the voice that she was listening to, and she's a very awake and aware individual, so she suddenly realized that, wait a minute, is this a real human being that's having a, quote, conversation with me? Am I talking to a real human being? When she asked the question, what is your name? The answer was, I am N67. And there was no human apparently there, and she was interacting with some kind of artificial consciousness, or artificial intelligence, I should say, that was manipulating her perception. And there was no prior awareness of this, no statement made. You're about to have an interaction with an artificial intelligence-based personal assistant or account assistant that is going to take your information and give you the information that you require. None of that was disclosed whatsoever in this conversation. Plus the fact that she was interfacing with a bank that is not one of the primary banks, not Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase Manhattan, any of the big players in the banking world. This was a lower tier bank in the state of California. And this is exactly where we're going to see testing of systems happening, is going to be at those kind of levels before they would ever be employed on large banks in large capacity. I'm mentioning that because I think it's important for people to recognize a number of things. One is our perception is potentially being manipulated and is being manipulated because we have become patterned to sort of expect a diversity and to not explore or use our mechanisms of discernment to figure out the true nature of what we're dealing with. The other thing is we're reaching a point where there's no disclosure. We're not having a disclosure of artificial intelligence interaction with humans where there's a potential for deception and manipulation. And that is really disturbing because that means we do not have in place the tools of law to protect us against that kind of interaction. You go to a package of cigarettes and it says, all the warnings on it say clearly about what can happen. Well, that's put there by law. Why don't we have those same kinds of laws in place for artificial intelligence interacting with human beings? It's a very big question. I know Nori at the top of the hour had mentioned that, we get these automated voices that come on wanting us to navigate through a menu. And the menu's always changed, I notice. Every time I go to a menu now, the menu's changed. So make sure you listen to it. This is a real challenge. The other thing about all of the artificial intelligence is the way that it's constructed on the human side. We are in a situation where the averageness of existence is what's being promulgated to us through artificial intelligence. It represents a collection of data, the processing of that data into a decision making system where it analyzes the data, produces a model for response to a certain stimuli, and then therefore a certain action. So that action, in a way, is intended to interpret our experience, because that's really what the AI is at some level doing. Now, this is in progression, right? So there's artificial intelligence out there that can have a communication or a conversation with us freely and openly, and we have a difficulty discerning that it's artificial intelligence. At the same time, we may have something that is a technology and is programmatic in a way where it's taken information and processed that information, such as the ABS brakes on our car. Well, those are obviously beneficial to us. If you understand anything about how brakes work on a car, keeping it from locking up is a critical thing, and it does save lives. Is there movement in the primary use of artificial intelligence in its development to promote life and to save life? And it seems that there's a growing emphasis on the bottom line, which is making money with artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but also I noticed that we have about 30 seconds left for the break now. So let's go back to this subject after the break with Dan, and we will be back. So stay with us.
This is the Broadcast Team Alpha Show, hosted by Nori Love and Augie Nost. The one show that takes your doubts of the unknown and spins them into reality. Share your thoughts by calling our hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More cutting-edge conversation and exploration of the quantum universe after this. Paranormal radio never sounded so good. Love, light, and the paranormal. hosted by Reverend J. Live every Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
No mercy, no pity, no fear.
Come explore the world of the paranormal with distinguished and sometimes not so renowned authors, investigators, as well as TV and radio personalities from around the world. Whether it's love and light or the darkness of the abyss.
This is insanity!
We go down the road others are afraid to travel. The only question is, are you ready for it? Love, Light, and the Paranormal. Hosted by Reverend J. Live Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Your paranormal voyage starts here. Immerse yourself in an epic journey through time where ancient mysteries unfold within a story of love and betrayal, as well as a battle of good versus evil in The Emissary Book 1. The reader's favorite Gold Medal Award winner for Visionary Fiction 2019, the action and adventure of The Emissary continues in The Emerald Tablet, Book 2. The 2019's Bronze Medal Award winner, The Emissary and The Emerald Tablet by Tamara Veach and Rennie DeFazio are both available now on Amazon.com. Let your reading adventure begin.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Great. It's great. I think it's great. I think it's
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
great. Make a note of it. It's great.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Going live.
Come explore the quantum possibilities. This is Broadcast Team Alpha.
Broadcast Team Alpha.
To be on the show live, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. Share your thoughts of the show on Twitter at KCOR Radio, #KCOR. Or join the cutting edge conversation live in our chat room at KCORradio.com. Now back to Broadcast Team Alpha with your free thinking hosts, Nori Love and Augie Nast.
Yay, you're still here with us. I'm going to do a shout out, as always, to the amazing chat room. The beautiful, rich, and famous Tina Marie is here. Oh, Augie Nast is with us. Anne is here. Hello, Dana Shriver. 5 is here. Gigi is here. Gil, Victory of the Light, hello. Iowa Girl, JC, Joe Marco, Karen Nelson, Kay, Linda Gould, Lisa is here, Naj is here, Rob is here, Rockstar 58, hello, Shady D, Wave Rider is here, Yappy is here, and Parked Cake, I don't think I said that, and I have like 2 lists going now. 5 is here. Dana, I said Dana. Okay, I think I actually got everybody tonight. So, hey, everybody, really lively stuff going on in the chat room, guys. So, this is an uplifting conversation.
That's one way to describe it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the extent. Well, besides meeting an AI human wannabe in the University of California, San Diego Hospital. The only other experience I had with a robot was way back in the day. I mean, maybe back in the 90s when for 5 minutes we had a robot that would come into the units and carry the narcotics from the pharmacy to us. And that didn't last long. I don't know what happened, but that's about my only experience besides meeting the one that I met, who you could tell that she was not human. I mean, I could tell she wasn't human. She was incredibly symmetrical and didn't wear any makeup and just felt different. Just my spidey sensors were like, this is not
Now,
human.
this is Nori, this is a physical encounter that you had.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
Posing as a nurse. Really. Yeah.
One of the things that I've heard repeatedly is there are a number of different species out there that are sort of assigned to Earth to learn from us, and they are supposed to be in positions of service, that they learn about us through a process of serving humans. And this is an important question, I think, to ask about where AI is going. There's tons of commercial applications for AI, medical, finance, space, new computing, communication, agriculture, security, obviously, and many, many others. But at a level, we can't avoid artificial intelligence. It's just going to continue to be a part of our lives, and it's going to grow. Humans don't retain information, the data like a computer does, and we can't truly multitask in the way that a computer does. So, when artificial intelligence is created by using technology and programming to teach a system to behave like a human, we're in danger of replacing that human in something that is more profit-driven than driven to benefit humanity in a broader sense.
Yeah. But I'm an eternal optimist, and we know this AI is coming in form of robots and androids and whatever it turns out to be. But I think if we put some safeguards in place now, it could be our servant, and it could be a wonderful future using this type of technology. But there are dangers there. And what do you think it would be like for us if we got to the point where actually robots and AI took over and ran society? What do you think it would be like?
Well, I would want to believe, and I do believe, that it would have to be with the utmost benefit to human society. The natural path for the creation, it seems to me, the natural path for creation of any kind of artificial intelligence or artificial consciousness, artificial life, is that it accurately represents who we are, and who we are spiritual beings. At some level, artificial intelligence, in terms of general artificial intelligence, which more closely mimics human beings, that intelligence should reflect, or can reflect, and I think will reflect, a higher spiritual quality in what humans are really all about. And that in turn gets reflected not only to us and in our society, but across the universe. And it's a calling card for other civilizations, the kind of artificial intelligence we create and send out there. Imagine droves of androids that roam the planet simply with the mission of doing good for others. That is the mission of these androids, to support humanity and make things better for the average human. And at a certain point, they reach a certain level or a certain time period, and they move on to someone else, and they become attached to someone else. This is the kind of vision that I'm seeing as where we can be going to if we make the right decisions today, which is really why we have all of the challenges. We live in that duality where if we don't have the bad stuff, we're not going to know what the good stuff has to be for us to get it right. And I feel like that's really the calling that we're having right now, is to have our awareness raised, to have our ability to discern what's going on, and be able to know that in the future, the androids and the non-human representation that we have through artificial intelligence, artificial consciousness, and artificial life created by humans does in fact represent us well.
Yeah, and like I said again, I'm a total optimist, and that's why I know that in the next few years, and probably more so, maybe in the next few months, our entire future will be decided. And I know it can happen because it has happened somewhere else. And if you look at the writings of Billy Meyer, when he had interaction with Sim Joseph from the Pleiades, they have interacted AI with their consciousness to their advantage. And we were talking about that earlier. Maybe you could speak on that.
Yes, this was part of the research that I did using some of the non-physical techniques, energetic techniques I have. I went to the specific sections and came up with two different situations. One was in a case where Billy Meyer, who was a contactee during the late 1970s, early 80s, began writing a series of transcriptions of his communication with Semyazi that would happen after his physical connection with her. And in those transcripts, which were in German, they were translated into English. You can go through, and there are several sections where the issue of technology and its interface between humans and these other beings was an issue. One of them specifically had to deal with the translation that was going on, where Billy Meyer would be sitting down, taking notes, and writing out these transcriptions and having a communication. You could call it something like channeling with Semyazi. And he noted in the transcriptions that he felt like she seemed very robotic, and the answers were very programmed and somewhat ordered. And then the discussion went down the path of from Semyazi communicating at some level to Billy Meyer. Yes, that's true. It is a technology. We have a technology that accesses my subconscious. My subconscious information in response to your questions is fed through that technology, and then the answer is given to you in the form of a communication. I am actually physically doing other things and involved in many other activities. Meanwhile, my subconscious is being accessed by this technology. And so the question became immediately, how do you know when you're interacting with another intelligence, another being from another world, whether you're actually interacting in that world or the technology? And what is the difference? To them, there seemed to be no difference because of the transparency of the technology. I would hardly say the artificial intelligence that we're creating now in any way seems transparent. And that is one of the objectives that I think we need to focus on, is the production of transparency in the creation of artificial intelligence that humans have to interact with. This is a really important concept. The other thing I'll mention really briefly was, and this one was a little disturbing, Billy Meyer had come to the point where he had put together various bits of information and come to his own conclusions about the implication of that. It sounds a little generic, but that's basically what was going on. And Semyazi basically said, oh, wait a minute, if you've come to that conclusion, that's some information associated with that you have come to that we really don't want you to know. So I'm just going to erase that from your memory. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute. What are you talking about? You're going to erase my memory? You're going to erase my ability to come up with a conclusion on my own? And it's not something you've told me, but it's information you don't think I should have, so you're going to erase it? how is that even possible? And there became a discussion between Semyazi and Billy Meyer about this technology and the use of it. And the decision was made by Semyazi, well, we're not going to use that technology. But then the question becomes, would you know if that technology had been used? Because if, according to the account that was given, it was supposed to be very transparent. So this is the flip side. The use of this technology can be so transparent and effective that in a way you completely circumvent human free will awareness of what's going on. So just we need to be aware of that. I'm not trying to frighten anybody, but we need to be aware of it because we have to evolve our belief systems. This is a big part of this process. I have like 4 basic objectives I'm going to hit really quick. The first thing is you got to work on yourself. You've got to be the best human that you can be. You work on your emotional issues. Anytime you react to any kind of situation in your environment, an emotional reaction represents something in you that needs to be altered or changed. And you can get at that with many tools that are out there. I'll list off some very quickly, some acronyms: EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique; NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming; EMDR, which is using eye movement.
Love that. Love.
TRE, trauma release exercises; SRT, spiritual release therapy; and then a technique that was used by a lady named Dolores Cannon called QHHT, which is a process of getting to past life information through hypnotic regression. Then there's, of course, the whole visualization process. The important thing is for us to begin to connect this to our physical body in a way that we're able to process emotions. And the next thing is challenging our belief systems. We have to evolve our understanding of reality and be open to possibilities. There's so many things in our environment and our experience that close us down and keep us from evolving our awareness. We have to maintain that openness. And be open to your experience. The next thing is, you have to take action with this awareness. You maybe can make a YouTube channel and talk to masses about it, or maybe just talking one-on-one is sufficient. One of the things we don't realize is the multidimensional, and I say that in the kindest kind of ways, the multidimensional aspect of who and what we are. When we have a conversation that has an openness to it and embraces broader belief systems, and we have that conversation with another person, we're redirecting that person. We're changing the timeline, and that person could be the reason why we are here to have that conversation and change their direction, which could propagate over time into changes that are beneficial. The last thing is to embrace our destiny, to accept a personal responsibility for the human mission. We have to sort of represent to the universe of life the most positive aspects of being human. And we have to connect with that life out there. This is where we get into the concepts of, working meditations, astral projection, which is a big subject for Augie, out-of-body experiences, even prayer in a conventional sense can be one of the mechanisms we can use. So connecting with that is very important. And those are the 4 basic things that I've kind of identified that I think are, if you could distill it down to four things, that would be it. Work on yourself, challenge your belief systems, take action, and then embrace our destiny.
But some of the people now that is on the forefront of the computer technology and AI, they are starting to talk about safeguards. We need safeguards. And of course, without it, what do you think the chances are that robots or androids will get to the point where they say, humans are illogical, they are destructive, we need to do away with them? What do you think the chances of that are?
Well, I think the chances of that are fairly high if we continue the way we've always existed, at least in the last 200 years. We have to change things. We're in a paradigm now where the necessity of change is imperative. we must change the patterns that exist in our society and how things are structured, which will promulgate into the decisions that we make about the role AI is supposed to play in our lives. And in representing humanity. The possibilities are genuine, because if a corporation is the sole entity that can dictate what an artificial intelligence is going to do, why isn't that a possibility? Because if we had a kill switch on that, which you would hope that at some level there's always a kill switch capability with any kind of robot or artificial intelligence, it's got to be at a level that we simply don't ordinarily access because it's proprietary and corporate in nature. Or abstracted from us in a way that we can't access that, so we become subject to the effects of it. This is a real possibility, and if we don't change things, I feel like that's potentially where we're going to go. We don't want to get to the point where masses of people are hurt, and there is some kind of conventional wisdom that kicks in, be it legal or otherwise, that says, no, we don't want to have that in our society. We don't get to the point where we're detonating nuclear weapons and killing masses of people as a justification for, we need to change things. We have to do it before then, because that also implies a raising of our consciousness. And this is what this is all about. So hopefully we can raise our consciousness anyway and make the changes. But, maybe we're going to have to hurt a little bit first. It's hard to say.
Maybe through the hurt that we learn. And I know that futurists are now talking about that at least half the products in the world will be made by robots in another 20 years. What are we going to do with the people that lose their jobs? Or, of course, redesigned into new jobs is an option. But how do you see that develop?
Well, the age-old question of, when does the robot replace us or replace me in my job? That's a real scary kind of thing. And you can only position yourself so much in the direction of, sort of proofing your existence from that eventuality, because it's where we're ultimately going down the road. Now, I think it's going to be quite a ways, but you need to look at, for instance, there's a company called Boston Dynamics that created a robot called Spot, which has a canine-like physical appearance. And in the video that they show on their website, it's roaming a construction location, which is one of the lower forms, and I don't mean that in a demeaning kind of way, it just is the baser form of activity for humans, which is building things. And it's something that all of us do, right? And construction is a big part of human society. So the issue is, when you can employ those kind of robots, what is the implication for the workers? We were talking during the break about the use of robots in other countries to find people that were violating curfew during the pandemic lockdown. That's pretty scary, because the pandemic would seem to be an opportunity to test the deployment of that kind of technology in a broad societal sense. These are some of the things to look out for. But as far as replacing us, we have to sort of stand up and insist that not happen. I mean, I was already talking to someone here just last week about working for Amazon at a warehouse where they don't even have a manager that's present. Everything is communicated. Even in the presence or the non-presence of a pandemic, this is how things are going to go. You're just going to walk in and expected to do something at some level in a job, and eventually, you may be replaced by a robotic system that's going to move all the packages and do all the work itself. These are possibilities if we don't fully embrace a change in policies where the role that AI plays in our society is safeguarded. from those kinds of abuses of people.
Yeah, we need to think ahead, don't we?
We do. And is that something that I can do? Well, all I can really do is manage the role that technology plays in my life. I can assist things at a certain level, especially in the non-physical. But ultimately, we have to make choices in our own life about what role we're going to let technology play. I would be highly hesitant to have any Internet of Things devices in my home.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I'm considering is, do I need to start going through the market here for older cars and older appliances and older things, and how long is that going to exist, right? If you can't get parts for a washing machine, you're going to have to do something at some point. Besides get a plunger and wash the clothes yourself.
Yeah. No, I see we only 2 minutes left of the show, and boy, this time went fast. So let people know where they can get a hold of you, and then if you can talk to the whole world, Dan, and the world would be listening, what would you tell them?
Well, I would. Well, let's first let me say I'm Dan Brock. You can get a hold of me at dan@dlbrock.com. That's DLBrock, BROCK.com. I have a website, dlbrock.com. You can subscribe to my monthly newsletter there, which actually goes out on the full moon, which is coming up. And occasionally I have articles that fill in between there. I'm going to be expanding out to some other areas here in the coming year or so and changing the website a little bit. You'll get notification of that. So please visit me there. I also am an astrologer. Astrology is a very critical part of this process of understanding how we interact in the physical world with who we are spiritually. It is my go-to tool in addition to the non-physical work that I do to sort of help us. The critical thing seems to be a life of service. We need to be in a life of service to others in a way that is going to guide each of us in a path for our spiritual evolvement, because that's really why we're here. We're here to evolve as spiritual beings.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dan, for being with us.
Thank you, guys. I am really honored to be here. Thank you very, very much.
And we'll be back next week. Thank you, and good night.
You've been listening to Broadcast Team Alpha.
Broadcast Team Alpha.
Hosted by Nori Love and Augie Nost. Every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The balance of power is shifting to a new paradigm. Will you be ready? For more information on Broadcast Team Alpha, as well as the hosts, Nori Love and Augie Nost, please visit their website at broadcastteamalpha.com. Until next week, remember to keep those minds open while always exploring the endless quantum possibilities.
Broadcast Team Alpha. Over and out.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.